Good evening, and welcome to another edition of The Exchange. I'm Kayla Hodge, filling in for Marvin Logan. This week, we're discussing a hot topic among college students, debt. With the national student debt toll reaching $1.2 trillion, it's hard to expect how crippling student debt can be after college. The unexpected toll lasts with most students throughout adulthood.
7 of 10 graduating students left college last year in debt. The total bill due for students in America tops $1 trillion.
That's right. Student debt in the US is now bigger than debt from credit cards and auto loans, and is second only to mortgages. Essentially, student debt is like HPV. If you go to college, you're almost certainly going to get it. And if you do, it will follow you for the rest of your life. Because legally, student debt is a special kind of debt.
It is the most collectible kind of debt there is. It is non-dischargeable in bankruptcy. They will garnish your wages. They will intercept your tax refunds. They will sue you in court.
Oh, they won't stop there. They'll steal your wallet. They'll pawn your baby shoes. They will shrink themselves down to 2 inches high, hide in your pocket, and take that money back one dime at a time. Student debt has tripled in the past decade. It has surpassed Bob Marley's greatest hits album as the thing seemingly every college student has. How did this happen? Well, more than 90% of student debt is subsidised by the federal government. And it all started with such good intentions. Here is one of the federal student loan program's early champions.
The average college student in America graduates with about $31,000 of debt. Here in Ohio, the average student will graduate with around $28,000 worth of debt. As it pertains to Kent State, the average graduating senior will graduate with almost $33,000 worth of student debt. I am now joined by Exchange reporter Raven Fulton and producer Caress Gilcrease to get their opinion about the national student debt crisis. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
So, what do you guys know about the national student debt crisis going on right now?
I just know it keeps rising. Every time you turn around, you see a headline saying debt's rising, college debt's rising. So it's just, I know it's just rising, and I don't know if it's gonna stop.
And also, I think that in addition to that, most students don't know what they can do about their debt. They don't know that there are programs for them that can help them. They don't know if there are any type of workshops they can go to start to prepare to be in student debt. If you're gonna go to college, like, you should have a plan. I know for me, when I was coming into college, I had no plan. I didn't know anything about student debt. I was like in the dorms, they were like, hey, you want this loan? I was like, yes. Like, I was thinking that it would be more money for me, you know, it's gonna help me. But in the long run, you come out of it and you're more harmed than you are helped. And I know for myself, I have $21,000 in student debt right now because of my freshman and sophomore year not knowing enough, just not knowing enough. And I think that students need to start to seek that knowledge.
Okay, so what responsibility do you feel the university has to educate its students about the toll and the stress of student debt and how to alleviate it?
I feel like they need to have like some type of class or something, because I wish I would have had a class, or at least like how we have academic advisors. I feel like we need a financial advisor, because honestly, I'm one of the first people kind of to go to a 4-year college. Like, my older sister went, but she kind of did it on her own. I have a sister who only went for 2 years. I went 4 years. My parents don't really know anything. I didn't know anything. And it's like I had no help, so I really didn't know what I was doing. So
it's so surprising, you know, that you say that. When doing research, I found that there are places in Michael Schwartz Center here on Kent State's campus that have financial advisors that are there to help alleviate this type of stress. So what do you think is the reason why the school chooses not to make that public knowledge for students?
I feel like it's because they don't want us to know. I mean, why would they take away money from themselves as well? And then in addition to that, I feel like they do tell you that there are financial advisors and financial counselors, but that's only when you have an issue or when you have a problem. I went to the financial aid office recently, and they told me, okay, well, you can speak to your financial advisor about that. And I was like, who is that? I have one of those? And so it's kind of like they don't really tell you exactly what you need to know when you need to know it.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, ladies. Coming up after the break, we will hear some student views on the debt crisis here at Kent State. And we will also hear a spoken word performance by Darnell Craig on knowledge. But first, Take a look at an upcoming documentary that gives a voice to those students and former students struggling with student debt.
My name is Cindy. I majored in biology and I have $35,000 in student
I have a BA in film and television producing and I have a debt of $65,000.
And my debt is about $33,000.
It's about $130,000.
We'll owe $80,000.
And as of today, I have $160,000 in debt.
$50,000 in debt.
Just saying this is terrifying, especially to a camera, because it makes it so much more real.
Get caught buzz driving, and you could do some hard time.
Craig, knock it off.
Sorry, Mom.
It could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And that could set you back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
Welcome back to The Exchange. This week, I took to the campus to see what students really know about student debt and the effect it has on their lives after college. Let's take a look.
I know a little bit, just a little bit. I know that a lot of people are in student debt. It's a really big deal. Most people are affected by it, even if they don't even know about it, like taking out loans and stuff, and it just comes back at the end.
Athletically, I know not every student athlete is on full scholarship. Some are on half scholarship, and some are actually walk-ons and aren't on scholarship at all. So they still have to pay back money.
Yeah. Well, I know that it's getting really bad right now. I know it's kind of a big problem in the country, but I don't know too much else about it, like on a national scale.
Okay. I know that each student that comes to Kent State, one has to do financial aid, so FAFSA. They take out certain loans. Some are unsubsidized, some are subsidized. So as for student debt, it's accumulating each year. It's a tragic situation. By the time you graduate, you have to have a 6-month span to get a job so you start paying it back.
I know that it's one of the highest debts we have in America.
Do you know what the number is?
I'm not sure.
How would you feel if I told you it was $1.2 trillion?
Oh my God, that's terrible.
My student debt, I don't know much personally. Actually, I know my friend just looked at some of his student loans, and just the interest on them after his 4 years is upwards of a couple $1,000s.
Do you know of any groups on campus or counselors or anything like that help with student debt and loan forgiveness?
No.
Did you know that there were counselors on?
And what do they do?
I have no idea if they'll be in groups. I have no idea what kind of group you would associate, like aside from the same things your parents tell you, like get a job and start saving money. The best thing I think that groups could come here and do is have college kids go to high school and let those kids learn how to invest money early or save money early. Because a lot of kids are giving away.
I don't think so. I know I think TRIO might have a grant for like the students who are in it, but I don't know anything, like no other programs. Okay. Maybe work study and stuff like financial aid help.
Do you know about any counselors or people on Kent's campus that aid with helping students with their debt?
Not that I've heard of before. Okay. I mean, there probably is, but I've never.
Yeah, if you could give advice on getting educated about student debt, what would it be?
Drop out of school. No, I'm just kidding. I guess have a financial advisor and like, see, like I use all the campus resources and yet I don't use any for that. So I would say like probably, I don't know, because I need some advice actually, so I don't know, I need some.
I am now joined by a couple other exchange cast members, Justina Parker and Ashley Coker. Hello. Welcome, Justina and Ashley.
Nice to be here.
Good, nice having you. So, what do you guys think about, the responses that we got from students for our Man on the Street?
I think a lot of students I think all of us together, students, are kind of in the same place. We don't really know that we have these resources available to us. So it's not something that we really think about every day, because most of us are thinking like, okay, well, we don't have to pay this until so far from now. Right. So I don't think anyone's really aware and thinking of it right now that we need to take use of these sources.
Right. Ashley?
I think it is crazy that the debt is 1.2 trillion and rising.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
That blows my mind. Just the fact that not everyone's going to be able to get loan forgiveness and trying to work out of, pay out of pocket to pay these loans. That's crazy.
Yes, and some of the clips that didn't make it in there was a young lady who government assistance doesn't even apply to her, where she comes from a family dynamic where she has two siblings in school, her and her brother, and completely out of pocket her mom has to pay for the both of them. And so what do you think about there being programs for students like that where they don't have government assistance to help them in having a financial aid advisor for them and their family?
I mean, personally, I think it's absolutely ridiculous just because everyone, school is something that not everyone can do just because they can't pay for it. And a lot of people I know personally would like to go here or go to a school in general and they can't do it because they can't afford it. And I don't personally think that's fair because we see certain people get free education, like athletes get free education. So if they're getting free education, someone else who has not been blessed with that talent should be able to pick up whatever they were not able to get.
Right. Exactly. Thank you. So, coming up next, we will have our spoken word piece from Darnell Craig on the power of knowledge. Darnell?
Educating oneself is a necessity we all must value. The absence of education is a tragic trend we all have fell into in this generation. Generating nothing but incorrect facts and misleading truths, we must dig deeper. Because see, education isn't absolute, for it is a form of learning skills, values, and habits that are passed down from generation to generation. But if these habits, skills, and values are biased, does this education truly lead to knowledge? For knowledge isn't education. Knowledge is the skills, values, and habits that are experienced yourself. The living moments of truths and memories that are only remembered by you and yourself. We must realize that our eyes aren't the only eyes that can see. Your eyes can realize those real lies and see through deception. But there is an exception. You must be knowledgeable of who your teachers are, because teachers aren't just mind motors and perception creators. They're the ones we must trust without a hint of doubt. We never question their words or stories because we view them as knowledgeable. Absolute fact spitters and life wise livers, we admire them. We need to admire ourselves. We have to read our own facts and live our own stories, because see, education is the past, knowledge is the present, and combined, they make our future.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
I'm a teacher. Let me tell you what I make. I make learning a privilege, not a chore, and frustration a tool, not an obstacle. I make working hard seem easy and giving up impossible. I make an old subject feel like a fresh thought, and unconventional methods common. I'm a teacher. I make more.
Welcome back. I am now joined by poet Darnell Craig. Welcome, Darnell.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, what a great piece you just gave us on knowledge and education. So, you know, what is that to you, the importance of education and the difference between education and knowledge?
The importance to me, honestly, I love words. So I looked up the definition of education, looked at the definition of knowledge. And the importance of education to me is very high, honestly, because I feel like as an individual, this day and age, you need to worry about being educated. But when it comes to being knowledgeable, I feel like I said in my poem and my piece, knowledge comes from life experiences. So I feel like once you realize that the things you got taught isn't always truthful, you need to start digging deeper into what actually is truth, and then realizing what actually applies to you and what's actually helpful.
Okay, I definitely agree. So as knowledge in education pertains to the subject of student debt, how important do you feel these two things match together?
Well, honestly, it's quite important, honestly, like I said. I never was taught in schools, in high school, anything like that prior to college about student debt at all, actually. So like I said, the education of it all, people telling you what the truth is about student debt, it was not always truthful. But as a college student now, going into my 4th year, I know what student debt is because I'm knowledgeable. So, like I said, I feel like it applies so well because now you really know what student debt is, how much it really affects you, and how much you have to actually work hard after graduation to pay all that back. You know? Okay, so as far as the work that needs to be done in order to get knowledgeable and educated on such the topic of student debt, do you feel as though students such as yourself should be more proactive in getting knowledgeable and getting that experience? Yes, definitely. Like, definitely. You need to find some type of outlet, some type of platform that will help you understand what you're getting into when you sign up for these subsidized and unsubsidized loans. You know, I feel as if once you really get a full knowledge of what that is, then you'll understand how to really handle it. Workshops and so other things too would definitely help.
Okay, thank you. Well, coming up next, we will have our social media correspondent, Kanae Hughes, see some of the reaction on Twitter on the subject of student debt. Kanae?
Thanks, Kayla. I reached out to our Twitter followers and asked the question, what are you doing to minimize stress and financial issues when dealing with debt? Our first response from Letitia E., she said, I find writing not what I need to say for helps later on, so I'm not stressed. Brooke Davis responded, I planned out my repayment options and will pay off higher interest accounts by allocating more funds to each loan. Our last response from Indingo Marie saying, by saving more money than I would at home. That's all I have for you this week from our Twitter followers. To respond and share your opinion about different topics for the show, you can follow us at KSU TV_exchange. Kayla?
Thanks, Kanae. I'm joined now by Marissa Alvarado, freshman Human Development and Family Studies major, Orlando Cumberlander, who is a sophomore entrepreneurship major, and Brian Stahl, who is a senior political science major. Welcome, guys.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. So I wanted to have you guys on the show just so I could get a range of, knowledge that Kent State students have about the national student debt crisis. So what do you guys know about that?
Someone go first?
Go ahead, man.
Okay. Okay. It's the next housing crisis.
Okay.
It is, credit card debt has now been surpassed by student debt. So this is officially the next big thing that might burst on us. It's something that needs reformed. You do that through Pell Grants, you do that through student loan grants, but there does need to be a federal policy to alleviate student debt, either through national service or some other statute.
Right.
But it is the next big crisis.
What are your thoughts?
To go off what Brian said, yes, I do agree with that too. I feel that just from seeing my friends and just seeing just the environments they've grown up in, I've seen that, and the people I've met here, I've seen how
how much that student debt has affected them and has affected their families, and so I see how much of a problem it is. Me personally, I've been fortunate enough to grow up in a household where my family has been able to provide for me. So that hasn't always been a crisis for me, but for many others, I see it's a very big problem.
Okay, well, as a freshman, I've already had to take out loans. So this is my first year, and I've already had to take out loans. So I know as I continue on, I'm gonna have to continue taking out more money for school. So I know by the time I get to graduate school, my debt is going to be sky high, and it's hard to think about that once I graduate, like most of my life work, I will have to pay back money. It sucks to just think about.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That's how I feel.
Definitely. And, you know, just to speak on a little bit of the knowledge of student debt, do you guys see a big misconception between, you know, what some people think they know and what's actually true about student debt and taking out loans and paying things back from a student perspective as far as the knowledge goes?
I think a lot of students want to blame the wrong people. The problem is 30, 40 years ago, state governments had a lot bigger financial role in education. It doesn't exist anymore, pulled out on the rug. Got to have those tax cuts for millionaires. So that's why mom and dad, or maybe even grandma and grandpa, I'm starting to get old, so maybe your grandma and grandpa, like, they went to college for $400 a semester or something like that. Well, that's just books for us. So I think we need to look at one book if you're like really unlucky, which I always am. So I think people need to look at the big context of the situation, which is a lot of state governments got it in their head that, like, oh, let's just leave the private sector to handle it, and then you get situations like we have at Kent State, where we kind of have a campus that wastes a lot of money. How much did that hashtag cost? Be bold. 125 grand? What was that? Yeah.
How much are they paying for the houses that they're tearing down?
There is a New York university, and I think I saw online someone said it is a real estate firm with a promising education wing, and I get that vibe from Kent State sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Agreed. Anybody else have any thoughts? Do we think that having the knowledge to begin with, maybe before you come to college, say senior year, it needs to be taught a little bit more explicitly what it means to take out loans and what you're really signing up for? Because, you know, sometimes I think it's misunderstood that everyone gets all the information they need their senior year of high school, when really they just tell you, just take out a loan. Yeah. So what do we think about that?
Go ahead.
I remember back my senior year, they talked to us about loans, the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans, and even still, I know the difference, but it is a little bit confusing. So I think they need to stress that a little bit further and go real into depth about what it is to me to take out loans. Because you take out $4,000 and you'll end up having to pay back more than what you took out in the beginning. So I think that really needs to be stressed out. And even before senior year, freshman year of high school, you should know what's going to be when you take out these loans when you go to college.
I think sadly the fact is, actually during my senior year, I actually wasn't informed anything about loans in any of my classes or by any of my teachers. And so I had to learn through my parents and what it really does, really what it was and the value of a dollar. So for me personally, I really wasn't able to learn that through my school.
Well, when we just speaking on, you know, the knowledge and things like that, do you feel as though Kent State does a good job to educate its students on the different ways to alleviate some of the financial stress when graduating?
I think Kent State needs to alleviate its own financial stress. Exactly. We just saw goodbye to Lester Lefton. I think we live on a campus that has a bit of a problem when it comes to money. And ask any student leader where there is waste, and they will find it. It's right there. It's in certain departments. There's waste all over this campus that could be found. I don't blame the students at all. I blame state governments and I blame administrators.
Right. Well, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
Coming up, we will have our performance from the house band, and we'll be right back.
The inherent right to work is one of the elemental privileges of a free people.
endowed as our nation is with abundant physical resources, and inspired as it should be with the high purpose to make those resources and opportunities available for the enjoyment of all. We approach this problem of reemployment with the real hope of finding a better answer than we have now.
That does it for another edition of The Exchange. Thank you for joining us. And be sure to tune in next Saturday for our final episode of the semester. As always, I'm Kayla Hodge, and have a great evening.
Stand up and sing with me. We were kings and queens, wake up and live your dreams. My kings and queens, stand up and sing with me. Broke free, it was always meant to be. Now we congregate in unity. We were one, but they tore us apart.
Stay connected to Kent Wired wherever, whenever. Breaking news, local deals, and more free for your Apple or Android device.
You've done with your bike, donating it to Goodwill may be the most incredible of all. Your donations help fund job placement and training for people in your community, which means your stuff can be more powerful than you think. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Stay connected to Kent Wired wherever, whenever. Breaking news, local deals, and more free for your Apple or Android device.